Hello and welcome to Crime Watch Daily Updates. I'm your host, Anna Garcia. This case takes us to Tallahassee, Florida, the state's capital and the former home of an affluent couple named Adam and Samira Frasch. Adam, who was a successful doctor, lived the life of luxury in a big house with Samira and their 2 children. Though they had everything on the outside, Adam and Samira's marriage was crumbling. They fought all the time, and things got physical from time to time. After one fight, Samira was arrested for domestic violence, but prosecutors later dropped the charges against her. Their relationship was like a roller coaster with its ups and downs. Adam reportedly had a penchant for dating exotic dancers, and he had an affair with 3 women, one of whom got pregnant. By early 2014, the pair had split up and Samira filed for divorce, though they still saw each other. Surveillance footage from February 22nd of 2014 showed them driving back to their home in 2 separate cars. The next morning, Adam left with their kids because he wanted to give Samira the day off. In the late morning of February 23rd of 2014, Samira's repairman came over to do some handiwork and he found her dead in the pool. She was 38 years old. The medical examiner's office determined that Samira died from blunt force trauma and drowning, and her death was not an accident. Adam remained adamant that she had drowned. In November 2014, prosecutors charged Adam with first-degree murder, and he went to trial in January of 2017. He was convicted and sentenced to life in prison, though he continues to maintain his innocence. Adam appealed the ruling, but in 2019, the Florida Appeals Court maintained his conviction. The Florida Supreme Court denied his request to review his case, as did the U.S. Supreme Court. In 2022, he filed a motion to vacate the conviction and sentencing. A hearing is now scheduled for February of 2023. Let's look back at the downfall of a successful doctor and the crumbling of his once extravagant lifestyle.
Adam Frasch, a successful doctor living the dream in sunny Florida.
Dr. Adam Frasch, he's a very flamboyant, extravagant individual. He was a podiatrist by trade, and he had a lot of money that he spent. He loved luxurious cars, trips. He gambled quite frequently, and he also had some type of infatuation with exotic dancers. I believe at one point I noticed he had 81 cars registered to him.
81 cars?
And there was multiple that weren't registered to him that he owned.
You had a very lavish lifestyle.
Depends on who you compare it to. Compare it to Donald Trump? No. If you compare it to janitor, yes.
While separating from his second wife, Adam traveled to Paris and met Samira. According to her best friend Jackie Watson, Samira was a shooting star from Madagascar on the fast track to fame.
She was a model. She was a model in Paris. She was on her way up. Before she became a mother, Samira always wanted to have a career as a singer. And she was a good singer, you know. I don't know if you saw the videos, but she was a really good singer.
They do not do work. I succeed, then I...
Where were you two married?
We first got married in Las Vegas, and then we had a formal wedding in Madagascar about 6 months later.
They had 2 little girls, and they settled into a swanky life into a gated Tallahassee neighborhood.
I think she was a good mom. She seemed very interested in providing the best life for her children. She had an interesting way of going about that, which, you know, might be somewhat controversial, but I do think she was a good mother.
Sky, get mommy a little bit. You like it? Do you like it? Ooh, you're making a mess.
From everything we can tell, she was very attentive to the children and wanted the children to be the center of attention everywhere they went. She would parade the kids around in very expensive strollers and clothing, and tried to start a clothing line for one of her daughters, and threw a one-year-old birthday party for one of the daughters that most people wouldn't throw for a wedding.
She was the best mother ever. She was very nurturing. She loved her girls more than her own life.
Skyna, look at mommy. Hey, Skyna. She's like,
Their lifestyle was very unorthodox, very flashy, flamboyant type of way of dressing, the vehicles they rode in, the way that they furnished their home.
Lots of gold, lots of marble. I think over the top for most people's taste.
You had animals, from the jungle, stuffed animal, but the real thing, you have zebra.
We definitely discovered from family and friends of Samira's that she was in fact high maintenance. I think she knew that Adam could provide a lifestyle, something that she was demanding.
But beneath the surface of this life of excess, there were signs of trouble. The money wasn't just from his podiatry practice. Investigators say there was some dirty money too.
I know there was some investigation from the feds looking into some of his books, but he made a lot of money for his trade.
I learned that he had multiple extramarital affairs going on throughout the course of his marriage. I learned that he was engaged in Medicaid fraud to the tune of many hundreds of thousands of dollars.
What kind of relationship did Adam and Samira have?
Everything I can tell, it was pretty violent.
From physical abuse,
physical abuse, verbal abuse, mental for sure. And Adam had multiple girlfriends.
He also fathered a child with one of those girlfriends.
That's where I really found out the nightmare that she was living in.
When Samira and I had a falling out during our engagement period and had a child with a woman outside of wedlock, but it wasn't a planned thing, it was, and we dated for just a short period of time.
But Adam's father says there were problems with Samira as well. In fact, he claims she wasn't a model at all.
Later on, we found out that she wasn't really a model, that this was all fabricated. Adam kind of built it up with her.
The reported episodes of violence escalated.
He had a very short temper, and when his temper went south, it was pretty bad. He could be violent very quick.
Every time that she was confronting him about his cheating, he was getting violent because he was feeling trapped, she was telling me. So he would get very aggressive with the throw, putting back on the bed.
Friends say Samira was terrified of her husband, but Dr. Frasch claims he was the victim of a violent alcoholic.
She would get sometimes in like a jealous rage or mood, even though I wasn't doing anything or flirting or anything, but she'd just get in these moods sometimes, especially if she was drinking.
Were you physically violent to your wife?
Never. No.
Never?
Never.
Not one time?
No.
But you do admit there were fights in your household.
Well, when people say fights, it's like, it wasn't like me returning the aggression or anger. I'd try to calm her down and say, baby, I love you, calm down, And so when people were there, they didn't understand her because they didn't love her like I did. And they would, say, how can you tolerate that or whatever? But I said, when you love somebody, but that's all I knew. She had a condition, it was mostly, hormonally related.
Adam claims he caught this argument on video while on family vacation.
I don't want to, please. No, baby.
Okay.
No.
I'll tell you, you put that next airplane. You're not scaring me, Adam. No.
Who took that video?
It was almost like it was set up so she didn't know he was filming it, to catch her yelling at him.
It was very tumultuous. They were on again, off again.
They were toxic together.
They were toxic. They would get in an argument, and for him to get her back, he would send photographs of hundreds of dollar bills on the bed in I love you, and that was what would bring her back to the house.
On the surface, Adam and Samira Frasch seem to have an enviable life.
They had multiple houses in Tallahassee, houses in Thomasville, houses all around the Southeast.
My first impression when I met Adam Frasch, I actually liked him. A lot of charisma, and he was taking care of, his wife and the little girl. To me, they seemed the perfect couple.
They were raising 2 little girls while residing in the lap of luxury.
It's one of the premier neighborhoods in Tallahassee. It's a very affluent neighborhood.
She wanted to develop, the girls basically with social media, reality show, little movie, whatever she could do for them.
But for a wealthy doctor who had a taste for strippers, speedboats, and fast cars, domestic tranquility was a bitter pill to swallow.
I think Adam thought maybe he could have Samira, the kids, and his lifestyle too, and that wasn't the case.
He was totally unfaithful.
He had at least 3 affairs with 3 separate exotic dancers, 2 of whom worked at the same club.
But Adam denies these allegations, sort of.
Were you faithful to her?
Yes, I mean, except for when she filed for divorce, I started dating, and I dated like 3 different women during that time.
Samira, a native of Madagascar who spoke French, found herself with few options.
I think Adam had the capability of holding some things over Samira in regards to monetary. She didn't have family in town. She had limited friends. She spoke limited English. She wasn't working.
She was very much alone, you know, in this country, she and her kids, and she didn't understand the system. She didn't know how to get a lawyer, how to get custody. She was completely reliant on him.
The mounting tension led to an altercation that finally got the attention of police.
And then she got physical and started hitting me, but I knew not even put my hands up to protect myself, and she'd say I tried to, hit her or something, so I just stayed there, and she almost choked me unconscious.
He'd back away, he'd never do anything. He was mild-tempered like that.
She had actually been arrested for domestic violence against Adam.
The police were called, she was charged, but those charges were dropped.
Yes.
Why?
That's a good question.
He had the cops coming over, pretending that she hurted him physically, and then he took the kids. Such a nightmare.
Adam was given temporary custody of the kids, an agonizing time for Samira.
I know when he took the babies away from her, man, she cried, and I cried with her. It was horrible. That's why I don't understand how the cops were giving him the benefit of the doubt when she was the one who was getting hurt.
While the couple continued their on-again, off-again ways, Samira began to get the upper hand.
She would go into Adam's phone, look up these contacts, and she was very bold, and she would just, call him.
So she was doing her own investigative work.
Correct.
Trying to figure out who these women were.
Anything she could.
The pages are kind of flipped. Samira ended up getting custody of the children and the marital estate and was starting to push back against Adam because of the multiple affairs he had had.
What was their relationship like in the days leading up to Samira's death?
Back and forth. They would fight,
Making up and breaking
they
up?
would make up, and they would fight, and they would make up.
It was progressively getting worse as far as the violence. She would confide in multiple friends of hers that Adam had threatened to kill her.
Reports had suggested that she was in fear of her safety or in fear of you finding out and that you were going to snap on her.
No, that was never the case. I never threatened her, ever. There's no history of that.
Then, a major turning point. Samira receives an extortion offer from one of Adam's mistresses who offers to sell her a sex tape starring the Good Doctor.
And she said it was her husband having sex. And she said, it's so disgusting, Jackie. You're not gonna believe this.
Were you able to verify that story or corroborate it in any way?
One of the girlfriends during her interview said Samira approached her about $4,000 for a sex tape between the two.
Then came the night of February 22nd. Samira had filed for divorce, and technically, she and Adam were separated, with Samira in sole possession of the kids and house. But Adam claims they were in a period of reconciliation.
Especially around the time of her death. Were you together?
Yes, we were together.
100%.
100%.
No, he was not supposed to go to go to that house, but he was still coming night and day hunting her. He was hunting her.
The family spent the day out of town. That night, as seen on the surveillance video, Adam stopped at an auto garage where Samira picked up her Hummer, transferred the kids' car seats, and headed home. We can also see her returning to her gated community of Golden Eagle at approximately 11 p.m., followed by Adam in the black SUV.
What time did you and Samira go to bed?
After the babies went to bed, we went out in the living room, we were talking, and then we made love, and then went to bed approximately 1:30, somewhere around that range.
And you had sex where? In the living room?
Yes.
So you leave the living room and both of you go up to the bedroom to sleep?
Correct.
Did both of you argue that night?
No.
Was there an explosive fight of any
No.
sort?
No.
The next morning, Adam can be seen leaving with both kids in tow.
The next movement we can document is at 8 o'clock on the dot, he's pulling out of Golden Eagle.
And then what else does he claim?
That she wanted a break from the kids and that he was going to take the kids to either Miami or Panama City and that she was going to meet them there after a couple-day break.
A lot of times I'd give her a mama's day off on the weekends to get her hair done, her nails done, go get her waxing done, all those things.
Approximately 3 hours later, Gerald Gardner, the family handyman, can be seen entering through the gate along with his 13-year-old son. Minutes later, Gardner makes this horrifying call to 911.
911, what's the address of the
Ma'am, can I get an officer out here in Golden Eagle? It's a lady laying in the pool, in her backyard in her pool. She's dead.
Okay. All right, she's laying in the pool?
Yes, ma'am. See, I don't know what happened. I just got here to do some work before I talked to her yesterday.
Are you with the patient now?
Ma'am, I don't know. She got some kids. I don't know where the kids are. I don't know nothing. I just pulled up and I just walked back there in the pool area and she was laying in the pool.
Okay. Is she awake?
No, ma'am. She's dead.
Is there any way you can jump in and get her?
Well, ma'am, she been in there. I don't know how long. She completely gone. And I want y'all to come take pictures of it before I take her out.
I've got somebody coming. I just wanted to make sure that, we could try and get her help if we could, but you said she's completely gone?
Yeah, she dead. She drowned. Somebody had to kill her.
Samira's sandal is found wrapped around a hose. Did she trip and fall? Or was there something far more sinister to blame? Samira Frasch, a former model, pop singer, and now the mother of two, is found at the bottom of a pool by the family handyman.
Gerald Gardner had come to the estate. He goes into the screen patio where the pool is and finds Samira at the bottom of the pool in the deep end laying on her back. He immediately called 911.
Okay. Is she awake?
No, ma'am. She's dead.
According to District Attorney Georgia Kappelman, Samira's tumultuous 5-year marriage to this man, Dr. Adam Frasch, was finally coming to a tragic end.
She had to try to find a way to get away from him, and I think she was working on that, and I think she was succeeding, and that's what he couldn't tolerate.
But Adam claims Samira was alive and well when he left his kids that morning.
So you put both babies in the car and you leave.
Right, and I kissed her goodbye and said, catch up with you later. And she said, okay,
Investigator Jason Newland says that Adam and his girls are seen later that day on this bank security video where he withdrew $5,000 in cash.
Do you know what he was planning to do with that money?
No, I don't know, but I
What do you suspect?
believe he was preparing to run.
Adam traveled to his beach home in Panama City, making several calls to Samira's phone.
Hey, babe. Just wondering if you got up okay, and you said something about having Jay come over and help you with cleaning up and that. I know you wanted some time to yourself, but these babies are a lot of work. But we'll make it here and get things squared away in Panama City and tell me what you want to do. If you want to come over here, if you're on South, if you just want to be by yourself, let me know. But I love you, and it's all going to work out, baby. I love you. Bye.
He left several voicemails on Samira's phone. Honey, I'm worried about you. Wake up. Call me. Is your phone dead? What's going on? Just random voicemails throughout the day.
Samira, please turn on your phone. I need to know where you're at, what you're going and doing, and know you're upset, so let me know what's going on.
That afternoon, Adam received a disturbing call from a friend.
He called Adam to say, hey, I just got word from a police buddy of mine that
something's going on
at your house and Samira's dead in your pool.
He said that he'd, heard through a friend of ours that Sam had drowned in the pool, and I broke down and was crying.
They were to get their relationship back together just before this happened. He was really upset.
According to Detective Anthony Giraldi, police immediately went looking for Dr. Frasch.
We arrested him while he was coming out of his home in Panama City.
Adam is taken to the station where he's grilled for several hours, and his story doesn't add up. For example, here's the exchange about the night before Samira was found dead.
So did you follow her back home?
Yeah, I followed her to Golden Eagle.
Before y'all got there, Did y'all stop at the gate?
Yeah.
Were you guys arguing then?
Not really.
Did you open the door to her car?
I don't think so. I remember my dad was I asked her if she had my clicker or something.
Well, I can tell you that on the video it shows you opening the door and her slamming.
Well, that might have, yeah.
Cops also want to know where Adam got injured.
How did you say you got the scratch?
The baby was playing around.
The 10-month-old.
Right.
So you try to make me believe that a 10-month-old has nails enough to make that type of scratch on your face?
Yeah.
So what happened when y'all get to the house?
She started drinking champagne.
How much do you think she had to drink?
I would say close to a couple bottles of champagne.
By herself?
By herself. And kind of slurring her words.
Was there any alcohol in Samira's body?
0 alcohol in her body.
But Adam now says it could have been non-alcoholic champagne that made his wife slur her words.
So you did see her drinking something.
Right, and I told
You're not
him that.
sure if there was alcohol in it or not.
Correct. Because it could have been the non-alcoholic ones.
Another problem, Adam's hasty departure with the kids the next morning.
She just wanted a break. If I could give her a break from the babies. I kind of just kept them in the middle of the night. I didn't want to bother her and wake her up.
It was extremely unusual for him to take the children anywhere without Samira. It was extremely unusual for those girls to leave the house in their jammies. They were celebrity babies. They were dressed to the nines every single time they left the house.
Then there was this curious remark about the crime scene, which Adam had supposedly not seen.
What do you think happened?
I don't know. I'm worried that she may have tripped on the water hose that was out there, or the poop or something, or trying to chase Bella around the pool.
Frasch, I'm going to be honest with you. That's not what happened. Me and you both know she wasn't chasing the dog around the pool, tripped and fell in.
I don't know what happened.
The scene looked staged.
Absolutely. I mean, she didn't die from an accident. The medical examiner was 100% on that. So why is there a hose with a flip-flop tucked under it? And then when he's interviewed by law enforcement, first thing out of his mouth is, gee, I sure hope she didn't trip over that hose in those cheap flip-flops and fall in the pool. She doesn't swim. She might have bumped her head. It's like, give me a break.
In fact, Samira's friend Jackie says she was terrified of water.
Samira did not know how to swim. And the reason why I know that is because we joke. I don't know how to swim either. When I was present, she never went around the pool.
Teach her how to swim.
Let me tell you something. I've been doing this for 20 years.
Right.
You done sat up here and broke down in your own way of crying. I don't know how many times, and not one tear has dropped out of your eye yet.
Well, I've already teared out for 6 hours here, sir.
The way the scene was set up and his statements about the way the scene was set up was the nail in the coffin for me.
Samira Frasch is found dead at the bottom of her pool at the age of 38. The medical examiner's report confirms the worst fears. This was no accident.
It was blunt force trauma coupled with drowning.
She was hit in the head with some object, a fist, a golf club, we don't know. Fell and cracked her head on some hard, flat surface, possibly the pool deck. And then while she was still alive, suffering from a massive head injury, was put into the pool to drown.
Adam said Samira drank 2 bottles of champagne that night.
Does that jive with the medical examiner's report?
Not one bit.
What does the medical examiner say?
She had 0 alcohol in her system.
Adam also claims that he and Samira were back together again at the time of her death, a claim the prosecutor isn't buying.
You really kind of have to look at the big picture of the relationship and how she really was getting the upper hand as far as getting possession of the house, custody of the children, alimony. The tide had turned, and I think that was not acceptable to Mr. Frasch.
But in his testimony to police, Adam definitely had another suspect in mind, Gerald Gardner, the handyman who made the gruesome discovery.
We're not going to tell you everything we know.
I understand.
That's the best.
I could see the body or see what may have happened, or if there's foul play, or if Gerald did something, or they got in an altercation, or I don't know. I wasn't there, so I don't know.
Did you ever look at Gerald as a possible person of interest? Because you had to.
Well, it's natural in an investigation. You start really close. Who do they know? He found her there.
He found her.
You start first person to find her. What did you see? What did you do? Where have you been?
Adam even suggested that Samira was having an affair with Gerald.
Adam was the type that he believed anybody Samira had in contact with was having an affair with.
Gardner? No. Was she in an affair? No. I don't believe that at all.
I mean, it's just impossible to believe that someone else came in and killed this woman.
But prosecutors say Gerald had his own theory as well.
When law enforcement arrived, he told them he did it, he finally killed her, and he was referring to the defendant. So he immediately assumed that she'd been murdered by her husband.
As for motive, many believe Adam was worried that a sex tape featuring him and a girlfriend would give Samira valuable ammunition in divorce proceedings.
He provided some information in regards to a sex tape that Samira was trying to buy off of one of his girlfriends and confronted Adam with this.
You're telling me she was not angry that night because of a sex tape you made with an ex-girlfriend?
No. She had mentioned that earlier in the week. And she was saying that they were going to give her, or she had to pay them money to get this or something. And I was like, it didn't add up.
I believe that Adam Frasch killed Samira because when that day she received that DVD, she was so disappointed, hurt, enraged. And I tried to calm her down that night and said, Samira, you gotta keep calm. You cannot get upset with him because he's gonna become dangerous, because he's gonna feel like he is cornered.
I believe that she could have definitely pushed him too far.
Did you kill your wife?
No.
Was there an explosive fight and you put her in the pool and tried to cover up something that happened?
No.
But the medical examiner also deals a blow to the DA's case.
And what were you able to prove about Samira's time of death?
Nothing. I mean, we knew she was alive when she came through the gates and her last phone activity, and that was it. We knew she was killed sometime between then and 11 a.m. The medical examiner that actually examined the body in the case was not able to give a time of death because of the cold water in the pool, which affected the decomposition of the body to the extent that there was just no way to say when she went in.
And if that weren't enough, a neighbor states that he saw someone who looked very much like Samira in her driveway at 10:30 the morning of her death, hours after Adam had left with the kids.
He is adamant he sees a black female alive in this driveway because there's never been anybody at this house before. This is the house with all the cars. And I just think the neighbors got the wrong day.
Despite these obstacles, Assistant State's Attorney Georgia Kappelman makes her case to the grand jury to bring murder charges against Dr. Frasch. In a surprising twist, Adam makes a public plea, publishing this letter directly aimed at prosecutors with questions like, quote, "What evidence do you have that I have any reason to kill my wife?"
Why did you write the letter to the people of Tallahassee?
Just to explain, my innocence and that in the media, the way they were treating me and exposing all this, negative publicity and that.
Do you think he thought, I can talk my way out of this?
Absolutely. He testified to the grand jury, I think, believing he could talk his way out of it to the grand jury.
And what did you think about the letter he wrote to the public?
I came to know that it was in character for him.
I think he thought he could go into the grand jury and convince them he had nothing to do with it.
He was wrong. Dr. Frasch is charged with first-degree murder. Nearly 3 years after the death of Samira Frasch, her husband, Dr. Adam Frasch, stands trial for first-degree murder.
Your initial thoughts when this case first came across your desk?
Oh crap. I knew it was going to be a challenging case.
Prosecutor Georgia Kappelman faces two major obstacles. The first, no definitive time of death due to the frigid temperature of the pool.
And the first responders that jumped in to fetch the body out of the water described the water as being extremely cold. The pool temperature was either 56 or 57 degrees when it was tested later the evening after the homicide.
The defense attorney jumps all over it.
The body is found at 11 a.m., some 3 hours after Dr. Frasch leaves his residence. The medical examiner is going to testify she found no evidence of wrinkling on either the feet or the fingers of the deceased.
The second challenge, a witness who claims he saw Samira alive hours after Adam left the home.
If a neighbor puts her in that driveway,
If it's not her,
then who is it?
is it the real killer?
But that was a big worry.
For over 2 years, it was one. That's why the case wasn't charged.
And when you walked by between 10:25 and 10:45, did you see anybody in the driveway of that house?
We did. I saw a woman, African American, tall, dark hair, thin.
What did you think when you heard this?
It was somewhat of a relief in the sense that, she was alive. After I had some evidence to prove that.
And this neighbor has not changed his story?
Never changed his story.
He believes he saw her outside.
And his teenage daughter. He had his teenage daughter walking with him too, and she said the same thing.
I just think he's wrong on the wrong day.
You don't believe that there was a woman in that driveway that could have killed her?
No, not one bit.
Kappelman's first witness, Gerald Gardner, the handyman who found Samira and the target of suspicion by Adam Frasch.
She was laying in the bottom of the pool like this.
So she had her arms kind of up?
Mm-hmm. One arm was up and the other one just laying down beside her, but it was both ball like this.
Did you ever think Mr. Gardner could have done this?
No, I didn't.
Then, a shocker. The prosecution calls a surprise witness, Dale Folsom.
Folsom? He's a career snitch. I mean, I had a hard time convincing myself to take the word of this guy.
Mr. Folsom, do you know Adam Frasch?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you know Mr. Frasch?
He was my cellmate for about six or 7 months or so in the county jail.
The 40-time convicted felon and confessed drug addict since the age of 9, Folsom came with some serious baggage.
In this case, I went and talked to Dale, and he's talking about things that I knew were accurate.
Was this something he could have read in a newspaper?
No, most of it wasn't. Very little of it was stuff he could have read in a newspaper.
And they got into a physical fight?
Yes, ma'am.
And he said, what happened? He hit her in the head?
For the club, golf club.
And what happened after he hit her in the head with the golf club?
She fell, and then he said he checked on her a little bit later and realized what had happened, and said he didn't mean to kill her. He was upset when he told me, but he said he didn't mean to kill her. It just happened, and he got scared and ran. So threw her in the pool and then ran.
Why did he throw her in the pool, if you know?
I imagine he did it out of instinct, but probably to cover up the. I guess when you do commit a crime like that, you want to try to cover your tracks. So.
In case you're wondering, Folsom received a break on his sentence for his cooperation.
Did you confide in him?
No.
Did you ever talk to him about any specifics of your case?
No.
Folsom also claims Adam asked him to get the golf club out of his house once Folsom was out of jail.
A big club like a driver, a big fat one. He said he would tell me which one. He didn't tell me exactly that day, but he said he would let me know. There was a bunch of them there, though.
Did you ever talk to him about the golf club?
No. Never. I just told him I was a golfer. I played golf.
In fact, investigators did find a golf club in the house, and it even had Samira's DNA on it. But when the medical examiner takes the stand, the whole golf club story blows up in the prosecution's face.
You looked at that golf club, and from looking at it, plus everything else that the autopsy disclosed to you, it's your opinion that the golf club did not cause those injuries. Is that correct?
It doesn't appear that it did.
Adam denies this, of course. In fact, he claims that police and prosecutors planted the club and tried to frame him.
Let me explain the golf club thing. The golf club thing happened like a year and a half after Samira's death. This golf club mysteriously shows up in the house after my dad had put the house up for sale, cleared the whole thing out. Plus my dad, he's a golf nut and sports fanatic. So he would never have left a golf club in the house like that, just leaning up against a window. The investigators planted that golf club. I have proof of that.
I wouldn't have been in there because I'm a golfer. If there'd have been a golf club in there, I'd have had it.
The medical examiner says basically a golf club did not kill Samira.
She didn't say that. She said she didn't think it was a golf club. She can't rule it out either, but she just felt like the head of the club would be so hard that it would split the skin and you would see bleeding, which we didn't have in this case. She believed the injuries were more consistent with a fist.
I think they got in a fight over his girlfriends. I think it escalated quickly, and I think he knocked her out. And when she's not coming up from this fight, the last resort was to throw her in the pool, make it look like somebody else did it. Moves the hose around the pool, flip-flops underneath the hose. There's another flip-flop in the pool. It looks like it's a completely staged scene.
And that's what made it a first-degree murder, when he made the decision to put her in the pool while she was still alive and make the scene look like an accident.
So it's possible her life could have been saved?
I believe so.
After less than 2 hours of deliberation, the jury reaches its verdict.
State of Florida versus Adam Frasch. We, the jury, find as follows. As the indictment, the defendant is guilty of first-degree murder. So say we all, this 26th day of January 2017.
The sentencing is just as swift as the verdict.
Stand up, please, Mr. Frasch. That do adjudicate you guilty of first-degree murder, sentence you to life in prison.
The outcome is long overdue. Justice for prosecutors.
You put your heart into this.
I did.
Into fighting for Samira. I mean, she doesn't have any family here. You're essentially the person in her corner.
Yep.
Fighting
and
for justice.
that's the way I felt in court. Like, there's nobody else here to speak up for her.
Adam will spend the rest of his life behind these walls, yet he remains defiant in his claims of innocence.
And I'll say this, every one of their witnesses they put on the stand lied, and I can prove it. They made untruthful statements.
Lost in all this tragedy, perhaps, is the result for two little girls who will now live without either parent.
They've lost both.
They have lost both, and that's terrible for them.
I want the girls to know about the mother, that she was one of the most beautiful human beings, and she has class and love and compassion, and she loved them very, very much.